Merlin's Premier League 95, for some the OG, the pinnacle, the daddy, the cream of the crop of 90s football sticker collections, and for many of us the first album we completed. After positive reactions to our last video on Merlin's 94 Rising Stars, we diverted our energy into searching for a subject to cover for the 1995 album. With no Rising Stars section in the 95 book and following on from the niche of the last video, we thought we'd profile the most obscure player from each of the teams. So here goes. Before we start, please consider giving us a like and subscribing for like-minded football content. We're extremely grateful to those who have got involved so far in helping us grow our channel. So in the last video we covered Ian Selly, who I would say is more obscure. Without wanting to rate tread ground recently covered, we diverted our choice to the one we feel is arguably next obscure. Although he is rather well known amongst a certain age of fans, arguably the next least famous of the Arsenal selection that year was Eddie McGoldrick. The former Ireland international joined the Gunners at the age of 29 from Crystal Palace, where he went on to play 38 times in the league between 1993 and 1996. He joined Manchester City, where he was part of arguably the club's worst ever team, as they were relegated to the third tier of English football in 1998. He had a loan spell with Stockport County before retiring in 2000 whilst player manager of Corby Town. He has worked at both Northampton Town and Crystal Palace academies and is currently coaching at several sixth form colleges in Northamptonshire. Ghanaian striker Lamptey was signed by Ron Atkinson in 1994 from Anderlecht, following a successful loan at PSV Eindhoven in the previous season. Lamptey arrived under controversy as his agent at the time had taken advantage of his illiteracy and had bagged his signing on fee and a staggering 25% of his transfer fee. He only played 10 times for Villa in the league and failed to live up to the hype that surrounded his transfer. Despite his average season, he followed Atkinson to Coventry City the following summer. He was equally as uninspiring at Highfield Road and left English football for good in 1996, spending the next couple of seasons with Venezia and Boca Juniors. He would become an international journeyman, going on to play for other clubs in Turkey, Portugal, Germany, China, Saudi Arabia and South Africa. Retiring in 2008, he was last the manager of Ghanaian side Elmina Sharks in 2021. Australian midfielder Robbie Slater joined Rovers from French side Lens towards the back end of the 93-94 season. Initially playing regularly in the first half of the 94-95 campaign, his appearances tailed off towards the end of the season as Blackburn were eventually crowned Premier League champions. In the summer he was sold to West Ham, where he spent a solitary season before moving to Southampton the following year, where he remained for 2 further Premier League campaigns. He later had a spell in the First Division with Wolves, before returning home to play for Northern Spirit. Retiring in 2001, he has since worked as a pundit for Fox Sport in Australia. Danish international fullback Hakob Kyber signed for Chelsea in 1993 from Silkeborg. His Chelsea career was dogged by injuries that started with a dislocated shoulder against Millwall, before later suffering a knee ligament injury from which he struggled to recover. He remained with the Blues until 1997, before retiring at the age of 28. He became a TV presenter back home, notably presenting the Danish version of "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here." Lee Jenkinson joined the Sky Blues in 1993 from Hull City. Although playing 32 times over several seasons, he didn't make enough of an impact to remain in the Premier League. He joined Scottish side St Johnstone before returning to England with Wigan Athletic in 1998. He later had spells with Hearts, Dundee United and non-league clubs Barrow and Goole. Jenkinson works away from the sport and resides in North Yorkshire. He briefly managed Lincolnshire non-league club Epworth Town as player/manager and had occasionally turned out for Hull City's Masters team. Darren Pitcher arrived at Selhurst Park in the summer of 1994 from Charlton Athletic. He notably scored a goal against Manchester City as the Eagles advanced to the semi-final of the League Cup in 1995. In 1996, he suffered a serious knee injury against Huddersfield Town, which effectively ended his professional career. Although he remained contracted until 1999 and even managed a couple of appearances on loan at Leyton Orient, he would quit pro football and even attempt to sue Huddersfield for damages. He did continue to play in the depths of non-league for Romford, Purfleet, Carshalton, Chelmsford and Ilford, but went on to work in the building trade following his departure from Palace. Sadly, on November 25, 2018, Pitcher died. Loving messages in his memory show he was well thought of by his peers and former clubs. Brett Angell was a prolific goalscorer for Southend United and went on to join Everton initially on loan in 1993. He joined the club permanently the following year but failed to break into the starting 11 on a regular basis. Neville Southall once described Angell as having a first touch like a tackle. Nevertheless, he was gone by the end of the 94-95 season. His next port of call was Sunderland, where he was technically part of their team that won promotion to the Premier League in 1996, although he had several spells out on loan. He later found his level with Stockport County, before turning out for Notts County, Preston, Walsall, Rushden and Diamonds and Port Vale, eventually retiring with Queen's Park Rangers in 2003. Since retiring, he has worked as a youth coach for both Bolton Wanderers and Portsmouth, before managing New Zealand-based club Hawke's Bay United until 2019. In the summer of 1994, Ipswich signed Uruguayan international Adrian Paz from Estudiantes La Plata in a joint transfer alongside Mauricio Tirico. Whilst his Argentinian colleague would remain in English football for many years, Paz was gone by the summer following Town's relegation, having played 18 times, scoring a solitary goal. He went on to have spells in China and in the MLS with Columbus Crew and Colorado Rapids, with his time at Portman Road being his only time in European football. He retired in 2000 and now resides in the United States, where he has worked as an academy coach for FC Florida. Mark Tinkler came through Leeds United's youth academy and also starred as an England under-18 international. The young midfielder suffered an ankle injury in 1993 that disrupted his progress. He remained at Elland Road until 1997, but by then had only made 25 league appearances in 4 seasons. He went on to play for York City and Southend United before spending 7 years with Hartlepool United, where he scored 34 times in 211 league appearances. He joined Scottish club Livingston in 2007 before returning to England to see out the remaining couple of years of his career in non-league football. Retiring in 2010 with Newton Aycliffe, he went on to join Middlesbrough as an academy coach. In 2022, he was appointed as Michael Carrick's assistant manager, which is where he remains today. Neil Lewis was a product of Leicester City's academy, making his professional debut in 1992. The full-back was part of the Foxes sides promoted to the Premier League in both 1994 and 1996, but he was only sparingly used over the course of his time at Filbert Street. Barry Fry brought him to Peterborough United for the 1997-98 season, but after a season he decided to retire due to personal reasons at the age of 23. He actually spent a short time in prison, reportedly following an altercation in a bar. Left-back Steve Harkness was signed by the Reds in 1989 from Carlisle United. He was given his debut by Graham Souness in 1991. Although he was rarely first choice, he played a part in Roy Evans' side before breaking his leg in a game against Coventry in 1995. Harkness remained at Anfield until as late as 1999 before joining Souness at Benfica. He returned to England 5 months later and played a further 17 times for Blackburn Rovers. He later played for Sheffield Wednesday and Chester City before retiring in 2002. He has worked away from football and in 2019 was sentenced to a 3-year driving ban and a 9-week suspended jail sentence for drink driving. We'd say AD Mike was the most obscure of the City selection this year. However, Mike was a player discussed in our last video. This leads us to defender David Brightwell. Younger brother of the 2 Brightwell brothers, David came through the City Academy and signed pro terms in 1988. He played 43 times in the league for City and has spent time on loan with Chester City, Lincoln City and Bradford City. He joined the latter permanently in December 1995, but by the following year had fallen out of contention and was loaned out to Blackpool. He went on to play the rest of his career for Northampton Town, Carlisle United, Hull City and Darlington. During his time at Carlisle, he scored the first goal in the 2-1 win over Plymouth that witnessed the famous stoppage time winner from goalkeeper Jimmy Glass. Retiring in 2002, he now works as a fireman and resides in Cheshire. He still holds close ties to former club Manchester City. So in 1995, Merlin decided against a sticker for Gary Neville, who would have to wait until Merlin 96, instead giving one to Chris Kasper, comfortably the most obscure United player in the collection. He was an England youth international and was part of the class of 92. However, he was restricted to only 2 Premier League appearances between 1993 and 1998 and appeared on loan for the likes of Bournemouth and Swindon Town before being sold to Reading. On Boxing Day 1999, he suffered a double leg fracture, which ended his career after only 75 career appearances. In 2002, aged only 27, along with Paul Tisdale, he coached university side Team Bath to the FA Cup first round. In 2005, he became manager of Bury, where he remained for 3 years. He has since worked on the coaching staff of Bradford City and Grimsby Town. He is now the director of football for Salford City, linking back up with his old class of 92 friends. A prime victim of the Merlin misspelt name stickers was Swiss international Mark Hottiger. Signed from FC Sion in the summer of 1994, he was the first choice right back throughout the season, but in his second year he would lose his place when Kevin Keegan decided to sign Warren Barton from Wimbledon. He joined Everton in January 1996, but after a delay obtaining a work permit, he didn't make his debut until March. Hottiger struggled for minutes at Goodison Park and left the club at the end of the 1996-97 season. He saw the rest of his career out back in his native Switzerland. He has since worked as a coach, most notably for Brad Friedel's soccer academy. Now fans of Norwich City know that John Poston is not obscure to them. Truth be told, the players chosen in Merlin 95 were all other long-time Norwich stalwarts, or were players who had notable spells at other clubs and were maybe more well-known to other fans. So on random, we decided to pick John Poston. He was an academy product of Tottenham Hotspur alongside his brother Andy. He joined Norwich in 1990 and became an integral part of their debut season in the Premiership, where they finished third. He also captained the club in their first ever UEFA Cup game. He remained at Carrow Road until 1998, where he moved on to Reading. He retired in 2001, having failed to recover from a knee injury. He has since worked as a personal trainer and as a coach for the John Medeski Academy. Kingsley Black was part of the famous Luton Town League Cup winning team of 1988, which prompted Brian Clough to pay £1.5 million for him in 1991. Initially a regular at Forest, he would fall out with his manager, although he did score the winning goal in the 1992 Full Members Cup final. By the time the 94-95 season came around, he was predominantly a fringe player and spent several spells out on loan. In early 1996, he joined Grimsby Town, but was unable to help them avoid relegation from what is now the Championship. The following year, his deflected shot at Wembley against Bournemouth was the first in a 2-1 win in what is now the EFL Trophy. He also helped Town back to the second level of English football again at Wembley a few weeks later. He remained with Grimsby in 2001 before a season with Lincoln City in the Old Third Division, retiring in the summer of 2002. Black has worked away from the sport and reportedly runs a small charcuterie in the Spanish island of Majorca. The only goalkeeper in this video is Dutchman Siep Dijkstra, who joined Queen's Park Rangers in 1994 from Scottish Premiership club Motherwell. Regarded as a cult hero over his 80 games in Scotland, the club had actually challenged for the title and had finished third in the season before his move to Loftus Road. Initially signed as number 1 by Jerry Francis, he would eventually lose his place in the team to Tony Roberts, who was preferred by Francis' replacement Ray Wilkins. Axtra played only 11 times in the league over 2 seasons and was loaned out twice. He returned to Scotland with Dundee United before a brief sojourn back in England with Ipswich Town in 1999. He later returned to the Netherlands with RBC Roosendaal before retiring in 2002 with German non-league club Germania Teveren. He moved into coaching after retirement, notably as goalkeeping coach for Fortuna Sittard, although he now works for Dutch lower league team VV Chevremont. Another victim of the Merlin misprints was Australian Adam Poric. Following an unsuccessful trial with Arsenal, Poric signed for Wednesday for £60,000 from St George's Saints. He struggled for minutes, and although remaining at Hillsborough until 1998, he only made 13 league appearances and spent time on loan with both Southend United and Rotherham United. He went on to have a brief spell with Notts County before returning home to Australia with Sydney Olympic later that year. He retired following a spell with Northern Spirit and was most recently the manager and CEO of Australian side Gold Coast Knights. Holding the record for the player in this video with the least amount of appearances made in the 94-95 season was centre-back Peter Whiston. He made a solitary performance for Alan Ball's men after his move from Exeter City in the summer of 1994. He spent a short spell on loan with Shrewsbury Town before signing for them permanently in 1995. Only playing for the Shrews for 2 seasons, he later went on to play for non-league club Stafford Rangers between 1997 and 2006. He now works as a financial advisor. Defender Stuart Neice was initially deemed as a long-term replacement for legend Gary Mabbott. Initially loaned out to the likes of Maidstone United and Barnet in the early 90s, he went on to make 53 league appearances before leaving the club in 1998, having fallen out of favour in the first team. He signed for Millwall after an initial loan spell with the Lions and was a regular over the next 5 years, helping them to the Division 2 title in 2001. He later had several years with Wycombe Wanderers before moving into non-league football with Woking in 2006. He would eventually take in spells with Heybridge Swifts, Wyvenhoe Town and Welling United before retiring in 2009. He has since managed a number of non-league clubs, most recently Coggeshall Town in 2022. Rush came through the Upton Park Academy in 1990 and played pockets of first-team football over the next few seasons. He played 48 times, scoring 10 goals, and was part of the Hammers side promoted to the Premier League in 1993. He spent time on loan with Cambridge United and Swansea City before joining Norwich City in the summer of 1995. He ruptured his knee during his first season at Carrow Road, which limited him to 3 games over 2 seasons, where he also spent time on loan with Northampton. He joined Oldham Athletic in 1997. However, he suffered a cruciate ligament injury that ended his professional football career at the age of 27. He later graduated with a degree in sports science from the University of Manchester. His daughter Lana is a tennis player who competed in the Junior Wimbledon tournament back in 2012. Midfielder Steve Talboys was one of those zero-to-hero stories. He played for a fleet of non-league sides, predominantly for Gloucester City between 1987 and 1992. He made the step straight up to join Premier League club Wimbledon in 1992. Although comfortably a backup player, he played with the Crazy Gang until 1996, playing 26 times and scoring once. He later had a spell with Watford, but had returned to non-league football with Aldershot Town by 1998. He went on to chalk up more appearances for Kingstonian, Sutton United, Bolton Rovers, Boreham Wood, Carshalton Athletic, Hampton and Richmond Borough, Staines Town, and a further spell with former team Gloucester. Talboys went on to work as a sports executive, but on July 31, 2019, he died suddenly from a heart attack whilst on holiday in Spain at the age of 52. Thanks for watching. What are your memories of these players? If you can please pop a like on the video and subscribe to our channel, it means a lot and it helps us grow and improve.